Good afternoon and welcome to the Kerry Garden Show. Alan Finn back here in Boyles of Killorglin, and I'm joined by a very special guest today who's going to be talking to us about bulbs. Olivier, you are very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Olivier, tell us a bit about yourself. You are from West Cork Bulbs, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Been working in West Cork Bulbs for a number of years now, and we're specialising in growing daffodils.
Daffodils. Well, I tell you what, Killorglin should be like your unofficial sponsor, because as I was driving in today, the amount of daffodils everywhere, they really are a beautiful, bright sign of spring, aren't they? They really are.
Absolutely, and we're very, very lucky in Kerry, especially because all the Kerry people, they really love the daffodils, and there are actually plenty of them.
And that's, you must have a special place for them, because your love of bulbs has kind of grown from that, has it?
Absolutely. I'm well attracted to bulbs. I've been working on bulbs for many years now, and the daffodils are one of my favourites.
Okay. And you were telling me you've got quite a lot of daffodils down where you are, is it?
Absolutely. You know, we grow daffodils in around Bandon area, and we have 90 acres of daffodils as we speak.
Wow.
So it varies a little bit from year to year, but as you can see now, we're plenty of fresh flowers coming up. We still get the odd phone calls asking us to plant bulbs now, but it is definitely too late.
For daffodils, I think definitely, yeah. No, we would have definitely covered that last year in the garden show here as well. So, of course, over the last few months, a lot of people would have been getting out into the garden because it's actually been quite dry, Olivier. So, for anybody who's been out planting bulbs, has it been the right conditions, or how have you found the start of the year?
No, we had last month definitely was very mild and was a very good time for planting, and this is now the time for planting what we call the summer flowering bulbs.
Okay.
So the more common that we know would be the begonias, the dahlias, the lilies, the nerines, and many other varieties of bulbs that you're planting now into the ground, and that will be flowering during the summer and sometimes over the summer, later autumn as well.
Yeah.
So we have here a few samples of bulbs that I brought in just to show you exactly what you will be planting. If the temperature are getting a bit too cold, we just want to hold up a little bit and wait until the temperature are rising.
And this week has been quite a bit of a shock, I suppose.
Yeah,
because it has been quite cold all this week. And what effect does that have? So if people are kind of worried that they put down the bulbs maybe in the last couple of weeks, what effect does it have on the bulbs, this cold weather?
Well, like any other plants, the bulb will go into dormancy when the temperature is below 3-4 degrees or even lower than that. The bulb is being stressed and doesn't like the cold like ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's not really happy about that. So the bulb, in order to protect itself, will go into dormancy and will stop growing. The same with the flowers. The daffodils won't grow because it's too cold. And when the temperature goes over 8, 9, 10 degrees, then the nature will come back and they'll start growing and produce green leaves.
So they literally just hit the old pause button. It's like tucking us inside, closing the door and waiting for it to warm up. Is that it?
Absolutely. They're waiting by the fire nearly, but that's basically the picture, yes.
Okay. So, right, it's the right time to go planting bulbs. People are looking for that summer colour, right? So they've got a bed that they kind of might have had last year, and they're looking, what sort of things would you recommend? You've got a couple of samples here, so talk us through some of the samples that you have. There's some strange looking ones there now, I have to say.
Yeah, they look, the bulbs, some of them don't look really nice. Some of them are actually quite ugly, and you don't want to be touching them, but it is, what you want is the flower, not the bulbs.
Of course, yeah, because that'll be all under the ground.
Absolutely. So even some of them don't really look, you don't fancy the look of some of them.
And I'll start with this one, because I tell you, if I saw this in my garden, I'd be kind of throwing it out nearly. What is this one?
Yeah, this one is very woody, and this is a peony rouge. So all the peony roses that you will have flowering in May, June, basically you will be planting them. This one is slightly off. We should have ideally planting them before in January, but I just wanted to bring it in just to show. But the peonies are a fantastic flowers. They come really nice and easy. Ireland is it's great weather for peonies. You know, they like humidity, but if you have a good drainage and a good light soil, they will grow very. It takes time to flower, but when it does flower, it's fantastic.
And will this be one that would come back every year?
That will be coming back. These are part of the perennial plants, so they will be coming back every year.
Excellent. Right. So let's actually maybe start with that, the soil types. So that would be the first thing really to know before you start throwing in your bulbs, because you need to know where they're going and what type of soil you're putting them into. So is it important everyone kind of just goes, right, that's an acidic soil, that's a regular soil, just kind of test them?
Well, bulb are not too demanding, okay?
Okay.
So they're very resilient and they grow easily everywhere. Like the daffodils, when you see some of the soils that we're growing into, they will be, you know, they're fighting for survival and they really want to grow and produce a flower very easily. So insofar as the daffodils are concerned, very, very simple. If you go into the dahlias, the lilies and the begonias, generally speaking, it doesn't apply to most of them, but not every single one of them. You need to have a very good drainage.
Good drainage, that's important.
The saying is, if they have the feet dry,
wet feet, yeah, we're well aware of the wet feet here on the Garden Show, absolutely. Nobody likes wet feet,
Nobody
and especially
likes wet
the bulbs and the flowers.
So the bulbs, yes, it's a big no-no. Ideally for the dahlias, what we would recommend to do is to plant them up in February, March, when the weather is right, into a very light compost, or planting directly. You have the option, either you can start putting them up into a pot, and when they're well established, then you can start transplanting them into a better location. But light compost, loads of nutrients in it, and when they'll start shooting up, obviously you will see. If, as I say, the bulb is not happy in the right place. If it doesn't flower, it's not a good sign. There must be something wrong with the soil.
Okay.
But drainage is the key.
Okay. And Miguel had actually said on last week's show as well too, would it be the sort of thing that if it's not growing, would you recommend transplanting it to another place, or is that a bit dangerous?
No, I would be, when the time is correct, you can transplant the bulbs.
Okay.
Some people are coming up to me and asking me if it's not flowering properly or discoloration, there must be something wrong with the soil.
Okay.
So rather than, you know, spending time analyzing the soil, the best thing to do is just you take them out. For instance, if you have daffodils not flowering now, you can, you know, dig them up in May and then put them into a better location, and then next year you will see what goes. And you need to basically stress them out.
Okay.
So that to force them to flower, said, yes, this is the time for me to reproduce.
Now, you also pointed out just there to me as well, there was another bulb that was shooting through. So people might actually have some dry ones in the shed that have been kind of been dried out since last season. Really,
absolutely. This is typically an allium that we had from last season. As you can see, the bulb is in bad need of soil and water.
it's basically crying out for there.
Crying out, but
get me into the ground.
Even though it doesn't look too good, this is actually ready. If you plant it up, the bulb will catch up and will start rooting in a very, very big way, and will start flowering. But you have everything in a bulb for the producing the flower.
So basically, it's got all the nutrition it needs to start off inside. Is that correct? So it's literally stored everything over the winter, and it's literally like going, right, I'm bursting now.
Absolutely.
But it needs help, and it needs to get into the ground.
It needs to get into the ground, and even some bulbs will even flower. No, the flowering may not be too good, but it will even flower without anything.
Okay.
Some like the Dutch growers are actually growing tulips without any soil.
Wow.
All it needs to go, it's into a tray with a water and few nutrients and everything like that, and it grows out of nothing really. Wow. What it needs is light, heat, and a bit of water to get going.
Okay, right. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other bulbs here that would be very popular with a lot of stuff. This is a strange one now. This one looks like a very kind of a mossy, kind of grassy one.
Well, this is a root that we have at the minute, and people are very fond of. It's only a strawberry plant.
Oh, this is a strawberry plant?
This is a strawberry plant, as simple as that. Just as you can see, the strawberry plant is dying to go as well.
Yeah.
It's ready, so the nice, lovely root coming out of it.
So the root, it's matted. It's very matted, like. So this is it a complex root system, or?
It needs quite it's quite demanding in terms of nutrients as well, because obviously you want to have good strawberries. But if you pot it up and plant it into a nice big pot with plenty of mature manure, composted manure, it will grow very, very well. But this is the time for planting strawberries now, in order for you to have the strawberries.
And the question I need to ask Olivier: would you actually plant it with the roots hanging down like that? Would you literally just put it into a pot like the 8 inches, or would you spread it out?
You'll spread it out.
You would spread it out and
but
flatten it out a little
obviously,
bit.
when you see what's coming to the very top and what you have at the bottom, you really need a big pot in order to make sure that the plant is going to grow properly.
I never knew that a strawberry had such. No, I knew it was a hungry plant, but my goodness, it really shows what the reach that it goes to get all the nutrients it needs.
Absolutely, that's the reason I wanted to show that, because the rooting system is quite important. It will give all the nutrients that you need for the plant to grow properly. So some of them, even though the rooting system is not as developed, it can go and become very, very strong and very big.
We've seen a different side to the strawberry there now,
Absolutely,
so we have,
absolutely.
absolutely. So tell me about the long-fingered one there in front of you. Pick that up there, Olivier.
Yeah, that looks a bit of like a spider, but for the connoisseurs, it's basically a typical dahlia root.
So that's a dahlia.
So well, that's a dahlia that you have. So it's ready, as it's very long and lengthy root.
That's a very big one now. Would they normally be that size?
It depends on the variety. You have many different varieties of it. So this is a dinner plate. So this is going to produce a very, very large, big flower.
What did you call it? A dinner plate?
Dinner plate.
Dinner
yeah,
plate.
Because
dinner plate dahlia.
Dinner
I
plate
love
dahlia.
the names, Olivier. They're just brilliant.
Well, I don't make up the name, and sometimes people are coming up to me with a very strange reaction.
Yeah.
But this is called dinner plate. It's a type of dahlias.
Okay.
The simple reason is the flower is so big.
Yeah.
It looks like a dinner plate.
Dinner plate. Obviously, sometimes it just speaks for itself.
Okay.
But they're very big, roots
Absolutely.
that go into the ground. So again, that would need a lot of space.
It would need a lot of space, and even though it looks a bit flimsy and all of that, it will, once it hit the ground and it have plenty of soil and water and heat, it will start growing very, very quickly. Wow. But the same thing as a rule of thumb is the size of the root will give you an idea of the pot that you need.
Okay.
So if you want a good flowering, you want to make sure that the roots have enough place to grow.
As Mick Dundee and Crocodile Dundee said, you're going to need a bigger pot.
Or was it Jaws?
You're going to need a bigger boat. And now this is a smaller version, I take it. Is this also a dahlia again?
It's another dahlia. So just to the comparison, compare this one to this one, as you can see that this is a much smaller one.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that root, okay? Because some people say, oh, this is very good quality and this is very poor quality. No,
it's again the variety.
It's just the variety. It's the number of lums that you have that will actually be quite important, because all these lums that you have here will provide all the nutrients you need for the plant to grow properly.
So for everyone who's listening on the radio, there's about 12 different lumps here just kind of hanging down off it, and they're like kind of long. They nearly look like fruit, but they're actually the main root system. So it's important that they get into a good 8 inches. They could be in a not a bad sized pot now. You could grow that in a handy pot.
So what I would suggest to some people, because you can pot them up early if you have a tunnel or conservatories. So if you can leave them inside, you can give them a good boost by starting them off into a warm area, and then once the weather is actually safe and the frosty days are gone, then you can bring them outside and transplant them outside wherever you want to move.
So you've got some garlic kind of looking ones, or onions. What are those ones there?
Yeah,
Olivier?
they're definitely not garlic, and I would advise you to eat them.
Definitely not. No.
These are actually gladulii that you will have, and these are actually a dwarf one. So the normal size would be the normal ones would be twice this size, and these are dwarf. People like them because they don't grow too high, and when you have windy areas, as you can have in Kerry,
a lot, yes.
You don't want to have something that will be growing or that will be falling off or tilting.
Okay. Yeah.
So these would be probably about slightly over a foot in height, and they're coming in different colors. Very easy to plant. You plant them up twice the height of the bulb, and then within 100 days, 120 days, you will have something.
Excellent. And of course, realistically, when we see them all, you'll see them all, the West Cork Bulbs. When you come in here to Boyles of Killorglin, you'll see the instructions. So you've got your flowering, July, September here. This is a Nerine.
Nerine, another very, very good and
beautiful pink flower.
Absolutely, and people like them because they do flower late in the autumn, which is nice. When everything else is gone, you still have the lovely flowers coming up.
And it says here you can plant it even up to May, so you've even got time.
You still have plenty of time to do it. If you don't want to plant them straight away and wait until later on, you can put them into a dry storage and they'll be fine.
And July, September, is that considered late flowering?
It will depend on the area. Some areas will be flowering earlier, and some will be a bit much later than that.
Talk to me about this beautiful. Well, that's the gladioli.
This is a gladulii. No, this is a different type of gladulii. They're not as it's the same family as the previous ones.
Yeah.
But these are species varieties, and they're really nice, and they're coming up with a fantastic, lovely
beautiful
flowers.
White flower there with a real crimson, deep crimson in the middle.
Yeah, they don't look like a gladulii as such, but they have a lovely white with a little bit of a purple, deep purple in the middle.
And you were saying rule of thumb. Is it twice the size of the bulb?
Twice the size, or once the size, depending. I tend to be, especially the gladuli, when you have a very tall flower, like such as the gladuli, I plant them slightly deeper because of the wind, and you want to protect them. But these, you just once the time of the height of the bulb is enough, and they'll be coming up every day, every year. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful dahlia here with pink on the outside and a beautiful peach in the centre. But one important thing is don't plant them upside down. Isn't that right, Olivier?
No, absolutely.
How we plant them is important.
That wouldn't be right either. You want to be careful. So there's one way for planting dahlias. It should be easy enough and obvious enough for people to know, but this is actually the thick stem that you have. That is where the flower was, and that's what's producing. So when you're planting a dahlia, just make sure that bit stays slightly above the compost.
So it's
and you will have growth coming up.
You can see that it's kind of at the top. It's at the center of all the actual roots, and it's got a cut off. So that's kind of where it'll be. So it's
absolutely,
important.
and the same thing for this one, which is slightly different, but you can clearly see the stem.
Because at the end of the day, if you do plant it wrong, you're actually making the flower
it will work
burn
too
up their
hard.
energy. It'll work too hard. And it won't.
Absolutely.
And the begonias, finally.
So finally,
this is a tough one now, because you wouldn't know which way to go upside down with that one. It's kind of a little nest.
It looks like a little nest, but something is give it away is actually the roots are actually at the bottom of it.
Okay.
So all the roundy part is actually where the rooting system is coming up. So what you have is the inside. There's nothing coming up on this one, but if you plant this up, the little nest up, if I can say
upwards,
that, upwards, it will start growing there, and the rooting system will start developing as well. Absolutely.
So and look, at the end of the day, we've always said it. If people have any doubts whatsoever, just come into any of the garden centres and around and just ask them what's the kind of best way to do it, and if there's any confusion, because at the end of the day, there's nothing better than planting something and then see it come to fruition a little later in the year, Olivier, as I'm sure you can well attain to.
Yeah, most of the time everything works normally and properly. We could have deceptions because sometimes it doesn't work the way it should be, but we're happy to give as many information as we can.
Yeah, brilliant. And of course, like things like the weather is also going to play a part in it, so hopefully everyone will get out there, get into the garden, start planting, getting the bulbs. Final thing, and this is important that I think a lot of people don't remember. What do we do at the end of the season once the flower has died?
Well,
have I got a good question, Olivier?
Am
I getting a gold star?
Yes. It's a top question, absolutely. It's a top question. Yes, absolutely. The importance is obviously, we were talking about the bulbs and the way a bulb works. So if I look at something like this, which is an nerine, for instance, okay? So this lovely bulb will produce a flower during the season, and the flower will be big. So that bulb will be shrinking to a lot. I mean,
so all
40,
the energy
50,
will kind
60,
of go
all
percent.
all the nutrients that you have in the bulbs will actually go into producing the lovely flower. Now, obviously, you don't see that because the bulb is planted. But once the season is finishing and the flower is wilting and getting yellow, and all the leaves are getting all the nutrients that you have in the flower and in the leaves will go back into the bulbs in order to produce a bigger bulb.
So it will actually plump up again, will it? It'll actually kind of go right back down into it.
And you see this little yolk that's on the side? So that's what we call the mother bulb, and that the little daughter bulb, basically. So all the nutrients that you have in the flower and in the leaves will actually come back down to feed this one, but more importantly,
it'll
to
create
grow
a second
this one. So in 3 years' time, this little bulb will actually become as big, and then we'll have more bulbs and we'll start.
Because I suppose one thing, and I'm sure Miguel and all the gang here in the garden centre have it all the time, is that when it's died, they just don't know what to do. But it's kind of digging it up and just drying it out. Would it be best to put it in a dry area in your shed if you have it? Some
of the bulbs can stay in the ground. Like typically the nerines can stay in the ground. The alliums can stay in the ground. The peonies will stay in the ground. Now, the dahlia typically would need to be dug up. Now, I have a garden myself. I do have dahlias. Some of them I leave. Some of them I remove and dig them up in around the end of the season, around the September, October, depending on the flowering season, and to let them dry to protect them for the frost. You can leave them in a tray in your shed, for instance, and then when the season kicks start again, you can plant them up.
Put them back out again.
If you leave them too long, sometimes, because we still live in a very wet country.
We do indeed.
So they don't like it too wet, and then they start rushing, which happens
Okay.
quite.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Just to know that even there is life after flowering for a lot of these perennials, and that they can come back and people can save them. Take them out of the ground. As I said, if we have wet winters, they'll only rot if they're there. So at least take them out and give them a second wind and plant them again this time.
Absolutely.
Olivier from West Cork Bulbs, thank you so much for coming on the Garden
My
Show.
pleasure.
Thanks for
Thank you
being
very much.
so informative and bringing some beautiful colour. That's pretty much it for the Garden Show here from myself and Olivier and everyone here in Boyles and all the lads in the background making the noise. It'll be no more, hopefully, very soon, and Boyles will look cracking. Do call in and check it out. Until next time, happy gardening.